Hello, welcome back to Pre-Algebra with Miss Betsy. Today we are going to be talking about dividing with decimals. If you're tracking with me, I am, as always, in Pre-Algebra for Christian Schools. This is the first edition. It's not directly compatible with the second edition, but of course you can still learn regardless of what text you're using. We're in section 3.7. It's entitled Dividing with Decimals, and I'm on page 96 when we begin our lecture in just a moment. But first, let's pray and see what our lame joke for the day is. Father God, I thank you that you are a constant in our lives, that you are always with us, and that you always love us. I ask that you would help us to learn the material that you'd have us to learn today, and help us to glorify you in all that we do. Pray in the name of Jesus, amen. Okay, our lame joke for today, let's see which one it is. You would think that I could remember these, but I can't. So, this is an old one. What's full of holes but cannot hold water, which would be totally misspoken. So let me try that again rather than restart the video. What's full of holes but can still hold water? Well, that is a sponge. Sponge is full of holes and it holds a ton of water. Okay, decimal division. We just recently reviewed, or perhaps learned for the first time, how you do multiplication when you have decimal numbers involved in that. So now we're going to review, or learn for the first time, how we do division when we have decimal numbers involved. And there are two different situations that will occur when we're dividing with decimals. In one of those, we're going to have a divisor that is a whole number, and another of those, we're going to have a divisor that is a decimal number, which plays into the dividend and the quotient. And you might be saying, uh-oh, I don't remember what dividend or divisor or quotient is. When you have not a decimal number, when you have a division number, the answer to that division problem, not a division number. When you have a division problem, the answer is called the quotient. The number that you are dividing is called the dividend. And the number by which you are dividing is called the divisor. If you don't know that vocabulary, make sure you know it by the end of this video, because you have to know your math video. You have to know your math vocabulary. Can you tell that it's early in the morning and I've been up for a while? My tongue is getting twisted. Dividend, divisor, and quotient. So first, I said our dividend out here can be a whole number. Our example 1 says divide 51.5 by 25. Example 1, divide 51.5 by 25. Now you're not going to punch this into your calculator, because your calculator is going to spit out the answer with the decimal point already pre-located, and if you don't know how to do long division with decimals, you can't make sure that your answer is reasonable. Because I cannot tell you how many times I've keyed information into my calculator or in my computer incorrectly. It's a simple thing to miskey something, which is why you have to understand how to do multiplication and division the long way. So we're going to do 51.5 divided by 25. We're dividing by a whole number. When you divide by a whole number, all you do is move your decimal point straight up so that the location is directly above it in the quotient. So divide by whole number. Move the decimal straight up. and then do your division as you would divide whole numbers. Just ignore the decimal points once you have located it. How many times does 25 go into 51? Twice. 2 times 25 is 50. We subtract. We have 1. We bring down our next digit. We don't pay any attention. Don't worry about that decimal point because we've already taken care of it. Bring down the 5. How many times does 25 go into 15? 0. 0 times 25 is 0. We're going to subtract. We have 15, and just as if you were doing regular division, we have to add a 0 so we can bring that down as well. Now we have 150 divided by 25, or how many times does 25 go into 150? Goes in 6 times. 6 times 25 is 150. We have no remainder, so we have completed our long division problem, except we've got this decimal number. We've divided. We've done this work just as though we were saying 5,150 divided by 25. But we located that decimal point directly above it to say that 51.5 divided by 25 gives us a quotient or a solution of 2 and 6/100, or we would say 2.6. So let's go ahead and look at this and see how can we check this. We can check this by estimating to see if we have a reasonable answer. So what do? Our book tells us on page 97, it says to estimate the quotient in example 1, you first round the decimal to the nearest whole number. Then choose a compatible number for the dividend before you divide. Okay. What is our decimal that we have right here? We have 51.5. So we're going to round this decimal to, make sure I'm still in here, to the nearest whole number. 51.5 rounds to approximately 52 as the nearest whole number. All right? This is the first step of what we're going to do when we're estimating by division. Now it says, find a compatible number for the dividend. Which of these numbers is the dividend? This is the dividend. In this case, we have rounded the dividend, and we have to find a number, have to round that to a number that works, because we're going to try and divide something by 25. And you cannot, in your head, divide 52 by 25, but you can say, if you round that 52 to a 50, 50 divided by 25 is 2. Or maybe you think 50 divided by 25 is equal to 2. This is what they're talking about when they ask you, or when they instruct you to find a compatible number for the dividend. It says, adjust this number just a little bit so that when you divide it by the divisor, so that when you do the division in the problem, see, notice we didn't round this at all. We only rounded the decimal number. And we ended up with our quotient of 2. Is 2 close to our actual value of 2.06? Yeah, that's a very good estimate. So this is what you're going to do. When you're dividing a decimal number by a whole number, all you do is relocate the decimal straight up. You can estimate the quotient by taking your decimal number, rounding it over here to the nearest whole number, and then adjusting it again so that when you divide it by the dividend, you divide it by the divisor, you can end up with a whole number. Okay? Let's see what we can do next. Okay, next we're going to be having decimal number in both the dividend and in the divisor, but I want to go ahead and do a couple of these examples from the skill check. First, problem number 1 and 2 says place the decimal point in the quotient. This is skill check problem number 1. 20.56 divided by 8 is equal to 257. This is what it looks like in your book, and they say we want you to locate the decimal point in the quotient correctly. Okay? 20.56 divided by 8. We're dividing by a whole number. That decimal point moves straight up, doesn't it? Decimal point goes right there. That's how it's going to be located, but let me go ahead and actually do this long division out for you. 2 times 8 is 16. We subtract 4. We're going to bring down that 5, aren't we? 6 eighths are 48, so 5 eighths are 40. We're going to subtract 5, and we're going to bring down that 6. 7 times 8 is 56. We have no remainder, so our division is done, and you see that we locate the decimal point between the 2 and the 5. It's what they're wanting you to do. They don't want you to necessarily randomly do this. They actually go ahead and do this division. You realize they're already giving you an auto check to make sure that you've got your that your quotient is correct. But what they want you to be very careful to get to locate correctly is that decimal point. Okay, let's look at skill check number 2 and see what we have. We have 59.2, 3.7. 59.2 divided by 3.7. This is skill check number 2, and they tell us that our answer is 16. Don't fall into the trap of thinking there's 1 decimal place, 2 decimal places, so it's going to be 0.16. Let's see what actually happens when we do our division. We have 59.2 divided by 3.7, and this is what I get for going ahead and moving on to the skill check before I've taught everything in the lesson. Let's just say, okay, I now made up my own problem. So this is now Miss Betsy's example. What if I have 59.2 divided by 37? Where's that decimal point going to be located? We're dividing by a whole number, so we move that decimal point straight up. 37 into 59, one time. 37 to 222. We're going to say that this goes in 6. So move that decimal point directly up. 6 times 7 is 42, and I carry 4. 6 times 3 is 18, and 4 is 22. We have a remainder of 0, so we're going to locate that decimal point between the 1 and the 6. Okay? Now let's go back and finish the remaining examples in our book where we have both the dividend and the divisor having a decimal point in them. We had our first example over here that tells us if we're going to divide by a whole number, we simply move the decimal point straight up. Divide, let's see how I want to title this. Divide by a decimal divisor. This is going to be a little bit different. What are we going to have to do? Because we have a decimal point in both the divisor and in the dividend, and we need to know how to deal with those decimal points in both places. It says, make the divisor a whole number by moving the decimal point all the way to the right. Make the divisor a whole number, and how do we do that? We do that by moving the decimal point the entire way to the right. Our next step says, move the decimal point in the dividend the same number of places to the right. So we're going to move the decimal point in the dividend the same number of places. And it's going to be to the right for today. It's going to be to the right. Now you place the decimal point in the quotient and divide as with whole numbers. Move up the decimal point. Move decimal point straight up. What does this mean in actual practice? It's not hard at all. Let's see what their example is. 20.54 divided by 1.3. 20.54 divided by 1.3, and this should be example 3. This is example 3 on page 98. We're going to divide this long division, not with your calculator. So we have 20.54 divided by 1.3. What does our rule say? What does our formula over here say? It says make the divisor is the number outside this box, make it a whole number by moving the decimal point one space at a time the whole way to the right. So we now have that as a whole number. If we move that decimal point, we have to now move the decimal point in the dividend the same number of places to the right. We move the decimal point one place to the right. In the divisor, we have to move the decimal point one place to the right in the dividend as well. Then you move that decimal point up to the top. Now we're going to divide this number by this number, ignoring the decimal points, just pretending that they're not there, because we've already fixed the location of our decimal point. 13 goes into 20 one time. 1 times 13 is 13. We subtract, we get 7, bring down our next digit, which is a 5. 13 will go into 75 5 times. 5 times 3 is 15, carry 1 is 65. When we subtract that, we have 10. We bring down our next digit, which is a 4. Now we're going to say 13 goes into 104 how many times? Well, I know it's going to be 8 because the little trick here is 3 times 8 is 24. We're looking for a simple math fact that ends in the same digit as this number here that you're dividing. I know it's not 7 because 3 times 7 is 21. I know it's not 9 because 3 times 9 is 27. 3 times 8 is 24. 3 times 8 is 24. I carry 2. 8 times 1 is 8 plus 2 is 104. And I have a 0 remainder, so my division is completed. My solution right here is 15 and 8/10. And let's see if they have gone ahead and done an estimation here to see if our answer is correct. They haven't, but let's go ahead and see what we can come up with. Let me see if I really want to do this. Make this first one a whole number. 30. No, I think that to round and estimate this one, while I could do it, it would be not really a pre-algebra problem. Just be careful when you are it's not a pre-algebra problem with what they've taught us so far. It could certainly be done, but it's sort of an unnecessary exercise to take that problem this far. Let's go ahead and see what we're talking about next. Okay, this says when you divide with decimals, sometimes you will need to round the quotient to the nearest tenth, maybe to the nearest hundredth. What are we going to do to deal with that situation? We're simply going to carry our division one place further so that we can round. This is one where you see how the example works, and it's very straightforward to solve. Let's see, we want to divide, this is example 4 on page 98. Divide 0.51 by 0.08. First part of the problem. Second part of the problem here is key instruction. Round to the nearest tenth. When you have a problem and it asks you to do two separate things, you have to do both of those things or you get half of your problem wrong when it comes to a test. First it says divide this number, then it says round that solution to the nearest tenth. So what do we need to do? We need to divide 51.51 by 0.08. So the 0.51 is inside our house. 0.08 is on the outside. We're dividing a decimal number by a decimal divisor. So what do we need to do? We need to adjust this decimal point out here, change the location of it, so that we're dividing by a whole number. Our rule tells us that we do this by moving the decimal point the whole way to the right. However many spaces that is. There's 1 space, 2 space. So here's the new location of our decimal point. We have to move 2 places also for our dividend. This is the new location of our decimal point. Then we carry that straight up. Now we do our division. And let me rewrite this. Maybe it will help some of you. Maybe it won't make any difference. Let me rewrite it over here. We've relocated the decimal point. So that means that we have 8 divided into 51. We have our decimal point located at the end. Going to carry that straight up. 6 times 8 is 48. We subtract and we have 3. And I'm so going to sneeze. I'm still in the middle of allergy season. I'm sorry. Excuse me. We're out of digits, so we annex zeros at the back so that we can bring down a 0. How many times does 8 go into 30? 3 8s are 24. Oh my goodness. Looks like I'm doing my division wrong here. 30, 3 8s are 24, 6. Just haven't gone far enough. See that it's being a little bit challenging for me today? You know, the reason that that's challenging is because I'm trying to think too many steps ahead as I go through this for you. 6. 30 minus 24 is 6. We already have 6.3. What do our instructions say? It says round to the nearest tenth. If we want to be able to round to the nearest tenth, we have to have something in the hundreds place, don't we? So we're going to have to bring down another 0. 60. 8 goes into 60 how many times? 7 times 8 is 56. And we have a remainder of 4. So we're clearly not done with our division yet, but we're finished with our problem. And why is that? Because our problem asks us to round to the nearest tenth. We now have carried out our division far enough so that we have it solved to the nearest hundredth, so we can round our solution to approximately 6 4/10. How did we get 6 4/10? We looked at the digit to the right of the tenths. It says 7, so that number right there, the 3, was increased by 1 to end up with 6.4. Part of what was causing me difficulty a moment ago is I was trying to, in my head, I was going far enough along knowing that we were not going to have an evenly divided number where I have a remainder of 0, which is why they asked us to round to the nearest tenth, because we don't have some even division going on here. Now, I'd said that this was a way that you could write it if it made it less messy for you. They're going to show you in your book to just go ahead and not rewrite it. Just know that you have moved your decimal point and complete your division. 8 goes into 51. 6 times 8 is 48. We do our subtraction. 51 minus 48 is 3. We're not finished yet. We have to bring down an additional 0. 8 goes into 30 3 times. 3 times 8 is 24. The big thing that they want you to see here is that you are not finished at this point. When it says round to the nearest tenth, it's not telling you divide out to the nearest tenth. Here we've divided and we're showing a tenth. But in order to round to the nearest tenth, we have to have one more place that we can look at. So we bring down another 0. 30 minus 24 is 6. We bring down that other 0 and we have 60. How many times does 8 go into 60? 7 times 8 is 56. We really don't care about the fact that we have a remainder of 4 and that this division could continue because we're simply being asked to round to the nearest tenth. We look at the digit to the right of the tenths. We look at the digit in the hundredths place. It's greater than 5. It's 5 or greater. So our 3 rounds up to a 4. So 6.34 is approximately equal to 6 4/10. And that's what they want you to do with this division where you're being asked to round to a specific place value. Now we can go back to our skill check and do a few more of these problems. Let's see which ones I'd like to do. I think I'm going to do the remaining odd numbers. We have problem 5, 7, and 9. So these just 5 and 7 simply say to divide. Problem number 5, 42.5 divided by 17. This one looks really hard, doesn't it? Not a bit. 42.5 divided by 17. We have two possible ways that we're dividing, two possible situations. We can be dividing by a whole number, or we can be dividing by a decimal divisor. Divisor is what we're dividing by. Is this a whole number, or is it a decimal number? It's a whole number, so what do we have to do? We simply move the decimal point straight up. That's going to be the location of the decimal point in our answer, and we do division. 2 times 17 is 34, and we subtract 42 minus 34 is 8. Bring down our 5. How many times will 17 go into 85? I'm looking for a math fact. 7 times what will end in a 5? 6 times 7 is 42. 5 times 7 is 35. 5 times 7 is 35. Carry 3, 5 times 1 with the 3 that we've carried is 85. We have a remainder of 0, and our division is completed. 42.5 divided by 17 is 2.5. Now, let's go ahead and look at example number 7. The instructions here are the same. We're simply dividing. Problem number 7, 5 7/100 divided by 3/10. Let's go ahead and set this up for our division. 5.07 divided by 0.3. Two possible scenarios here when we're dividing. Either it's going to be a decimal number or it's going to be a whole number. No other choices here. Which is this? Got your decimal point showing up. It's a decimal number. So, are we dividing by a whole number? Nope. Dividing by a decimal divisor. So what do we have to do? We have an extra step here. We need to move the decimal point in the divisor so that it becomes a whole number. We do that by moving that decimal point the whole way to the right. How many spaces did we move it, or how many places did we move it? Just one. This is sort of like you're keeping your seesaw in balance. What you do to the right side, you do to the left side, and that balances out. When you're moving decimal points, prior to doing division with decimal numbers, you have to, if you're moving them, you have to move the same number of decimal places out as you do inside. Okay, we've simply moved this decimal one place, and that's our location. 3 goes into 5 once. 1 times 3 is 3. We subtract, and we bring down our 0. We now are going to say 3 goes into 20. How many times? 3 times 6 is 18, isn't it? 3 times 7 is 21. We subtract. We have a 2. Bring down our final digit of a 7. And here's another one of your math facts. 3 times what is 27? 3 times 9 is 27. That's all you do. The only thing that you're messing around with in this section that is different from what you may have done before, or should actually be reviewed for you, is how do you locate the decimal point. When you divide by a whole number, you only move the decimal point in here in the dividend. When you divide by a decimal number, you do exactly what we did here. You relocate the decimal point so that you're dividing by a whole number. How many places did we move it here? We moved it 1 place. Then you have to adjust the location of your decimal point in the dividend by moving it the same number of places. Move this the same number of places here to the right, which was 1, and then you move your decimal point straight up. Do your division as if you were dividing whole numbers. You end up with 16 9/10 as your solution. Now, one more thing that I want to review from the skill check. This is problem number 9. This says divide and round to the nearest tenth. 19 divided by 0.7. Divide, which is part 1, round to the nearest tenth, which is part 2. Two-step problem. Do not fail to do the second part of your problem. First, we're going to divide 19 by 0.7. Because we're dividing by a decimal number, you have to relocate that decimal in the divisor the whole way to the right. We do that by moving it 1 place. Because we moved that decimal point 1 place in the divisor, you have to do that the same way in the dividend. We have to move it 1 place to the right. How are we going to do this here? We annex a 0 so that we can relocate our decimal point. Let me check and make sure that I'm headed in the right direction here. Yes. Now, we're just going to divide this as if we're doing 190 by 7. 7 goes into 19 twice. 2 times 7 is 14. And we're going to subtract now, aren't we? 19. 7. Okay. You know, as you get old like me with this white hair, your bifocals don't always work right. Back to the problem. 2 times 7 is 14. 19 minus 14 is 5. We bring down a 0, and we have 50. 7 goes into 50. What's your math fact? 7 times 7 is 49. 7 times 8 is 56. The 7 is the one that we're looking for. 7 times 7 is 49. We subtract. We have a remainder of 1. Well, we need to keep on going, don't we? Because we've been asked to round to the nearest tenth. Bring down another 0. 7 goes into 10. How many times? It goes in once. We subtract, And we have a remainder of 3. Now, are we finished? We've got it at the 10th. No, because we've been asked to round to the nearest 10th. So we have to carry our division 1 place further. So we have another 0 that we bring down. How many times does 7 go into 30? Here we have 4 times 7 is 28. And we don't even have to do the subtraction because all we're being asked to do is to round to the nearest 10th. In order to be able to round to the nearest 10th, you carry your division to the nearest hundredth, and then you can round. So 27.14 is approximately equal to 27.1. We had to go 1 step further with our division because if this had been a 5 or above, our estimated quotient would have been 27.2, wouldn't it? So that's what we're doing with our division. I think it should be pretty straightforward. And you know what, in these videos I make lots of wisecracks about the color of my hair and my bifocals and being old, but you know what? I'm grateful to have the opportunity to teach you guys, and I would challenge just about most any of you to some road biking because that's something that I thoroughly enjoy. And I went 80 miles this last week. I was hoping to be able to go 100, but my bike quit working, so that was sad. I'll get it fixed this week. Anyway, y'all have a great week, and I'll see you next time.